Welcome back to Monroe Musings. I am so excited for you to meet Scott and Leora today. They are the husband and wife duo behind Winsome Kind. They create heart-centered music and they have released 4 albums together. Their 5th one is on the way. They have made 3 beautiful babies together and their 4th one is on the way. They have such an energetic household with 4 manifesting generators and 1 generator. They cannot wait for you to hear their story, fall in love with their music, and see what it's like when someone takes an unconventional path, as most of my guests do. I love that we were able to explore their similarities and differences in each of their charts and how they are choosing to rebel against a lot of the way society expects us to behave and to raise families, and they are embracing that non-linear path of manifesting generators. And I was just so delighted by this conversation, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Let's get into it.
Hi, I'm so happy to have you guys on Monroe Musings today. Would you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, you bet. My name's Leora.
Yeah, I'm Scott, and we are Winsome Kind. And we make music together, and we also have a family together. I don't know. There's so
Life
much.
and music,
Amazing. Family music you're creating together.
definitely.
It's been a beautiful co-creation for, I guess, the last 12 years. We actually met in 2012 doing a professional theater production in Saskatchewan, Canada. We were doing a production of the Buddy Holly story, and it was essentially love at first sight. We met, fell in love, and yeah, I mean, there's so much to get into, but that's sort of the initial.
Amazing. Love at first sight. Love to hear that it exists and can be lasting. Okay, so I wanted to dive into your guys' charts, and I was fascinated to see that you're both manifesting generators.
Yeah. And
That
2 of our
is-
kids as well.
My gosh, wow. And you
Yeah,
have 3 kids?
So far.
we actually have a 4th
So-
on the way.
Another one coming.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you have one that, well, we don't know the design of that one yet because it has not emerged. But
It's not emerged yet.
so you have one. Do you know what the one is that's not a manifesting generator?
Yeah, Jasper's a generator. And then the rest of us
Okay.
are, manifesting generators.
So a very energized household with all that sacral energy.
Uh-huh.
That's that's nice though. There's no one like struggling to handle all the energy. You all have it.
Mm.
Yeah, as both of you being manifesting generators, usually one of the things I say is like, don't expect everyone to keep up with you. Like you have like big, amazing energy and you can move really fast and you can get a lot of things done, but that is not how everyone is wired, although it is how almost everyone in your household is wired. So
Yeah.
It feels like that, like most days. Some days we're just amazed at how much we do get done, and like we sort of have this running joke that we're like, wow, man, that was a big week. And we're like, no, it was a big month. We're like, well, it's been a big year actually. And then it just like,
It just doesn't end. Yeah.
that's amazing. I'm going to enjoy it while I have access to your guys' energy because I don't have that. So as manifesting generators, you have strategy that is meant to help you align with your purpose or create aligned opportunities. And that is to respond to the things that show up around you. So instead of like trying to create something out of nothing, you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to make something, or it's to be inspired by or lit up by things that happen to show up. So whether that's something comes up in a conversation, you hear on a podcast, you see a billboard, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just something sparks in front of you and you respond to it and you're lit up by it. And then you're like, yep, that's the thing. Also, because you're manifesting generators and you move quickly, part of your strategy is to inform people, the people that are going to be impacted by the decisions you make or the pivots you make. Manifesting generators tend to have a lot of pivots. and just letting them know it's not so much asking permission as it is like, hey, I'm going to do this thing, or hey, I'm changing this direction, just so they're not totally caught off guard. Like, wait, what just happened? I thought you were doing something and I'm still like 3 steps behind and now you're way over there. So it's just keeping people informed of the changes and people who it will affect.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that brings up so much. I'm like, when I think of the last 5 or 6 years and just everything,
Quite a few pivots. Yeah.
everything we've been through, there's definitely been some pivots along the way, and a lot of magic, a lot of incredible experiences, but some real highs, some real lows. It's been an incredible journey, but for sure that makes sense.
I know some of the stories I've heard with manifesting generators, particularly as kids, I think because you guys are all manifesting generators, it might not be as big of a like headbutting because you understand it.
Yeah.
But it'd be like kids who would like try something on and be like, yeah, I quit. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I tried this thing. I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do this sport. Now I want to do this instrument. And that's actually normal for manifesting generators to try something on and then move on quickly. And it's kind of finding that balance between like, do we just not quit, or do we try it for a certain amount of time? Like, where's the balance in quitting everything versus following that intuitive ping of, oh, this isn't for me, or I already got out of this experience what I needed and now it's time to move on.
I can resonate with that, especially as a child, sort of that struggle of that balance of trying to communicate. It's not that I was necessarily quitting, it was just that it wasn't lighting me up anymore. And even as an adult too, I think it's sort of been beautiful to sort of more think of it as these layers of experience that make me who I am. So I needed to take something from this and something from this and something from this. And maybe at times to other people, it didn't make sense how all those things could come together. It's now that I'm a little bit older, it really is sort of leading me more towards finding a purpose that is more solid and solidified in these certain themes that are not all exactly in the same sector, but they make me who I am and what I have to offer. And that's become more clear, which is cool.
It's like a beautiful web.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of connected in different ways.
Totally. It's human or manifesting generators tend to have a non-linear path. Like that's exactly what you're describing. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't like follow this like step by step. And if I do this, then this pathway. But then at some point there's this like, oh my gosh, all of those things really did contribute to where I am now. I just couldn't see the path from where I was. But now that I'm here, I see how they've all influenced it and supported it in some way.
Yeah, like for example, we met as actors. So we were both professional theater and film actors for 10 years before we met. And then when we made the decision in 2020 to not be that anymore because it didn't align with our values exactly. But we were still making music together. So we were still in that creative zone. We were just using our own voices more. I mean, you had always written your own music, but for me, it was something a bit more new. And we've made 5 albums together now. 4
with the fifth one's on the way. Yeah. But
yeah, so that part continued. And then same with our side stuff in the holistic healing modalities. It's really interesting. Before we met, I was taking reflexology and you were taking massage. And then so as we got together, we were like, oh, this is my side thing. And he was like, oh, this is my side thing too. And so it sort of turned into this thing where all of a sudden then we realized that the music and the healing could go together and we could create music that was healing for people. And that was really magical. Which
really came like in our latest album, Mantras for Magical Life. We really kind of fused all that together and created these 9, sort of positive affirmations through music recorded in 432 hertz. We really kind of tried to like bring it all together with that latest project. And I feel like we did a pretty good job. We kind of,
yeah, and because, it's been so second nature for us to be on stage. It's felt really good to share in that way too. And
yeah, it was beautiful. We got to go to Confluence back in May, and the third gathering there at the Sovereignty Ranch in Texas. And we did this beautiful mantra workshop, and we had about 75 people show up.
It was put on the schedule last minute. We weren't sure if like 5 people were going to show up.
But it turned out to be this really wonderful, this really beautiful gathering, and people were just like crying and we were all singing, and it was really, really special. It was pretty cool.
That is so amazing. I actually found your music through a playlist for Confluence.
Oh,
And
sweet.
I'm pretty sure what I have listened to is the album you were just talking about. Was it Mantras for Mankind?
Mantras for a Magical Life.
Mantras for a Magical Life. Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
I believe that's when I'm like working and I don't want to be background programming with what other music or although pretty soon it's not going to work. I like to play music that I won't sing along to, but the more I listen to it, the more I
That'll
learn
be
the
tricky.
words, and then I'm like, and then I have to like switch to some acoustic only music so that I'm not singing. But
That's
I
fair.
like having something, I guess, supportive going into my mind when I have
Yeah.
music in the background.
I particularly love it when I'm doing the dishes. I feel like that's a good time to listen to it, or in the bathtub or something like that.
Yes. Intentionally programming our stuff with positive affirmations.
Well, the music industry is just like, it's, from a human design perspective, I always sort of felt like I never fit in some way, even as an actor, musician, like before I met Leora, like I always kind of felt like, I don't know, like I just don't quite, I felt different. I don't know how to, and then but our music has always had this really heart-centered, kind of wholesome sort of vibe to it, even from the beginning. Like our first album came out in 2014. And so we've really been on this journey for quite a while now together, making music and making a family. And
Yeah, even before we honed the consciousness aspect of it, it was always part of the mandate to shine light on the darkness and just kind of keep it, even if we were talking or singing about, challenging or tough things, to always sort of provide this perspective of light and sort of a feeling of hope. That was always very clear, even when we were younger.
yeah, for sure.
Maybe you can speak
That's
to that in our
amazing.
chart.
Well, the human design chart doesn't speak to everything. I would say it's sort of like anyone could be a musician with any chart, but your chart might influence how you show up and do that. Also, it's taking into account the energy you came in with and more of like the how-to guide. But I would say we have the choice to choose our path still. And I don't think human design speaks to positive or negative or speaks to how conscious or unconscious someone's going to be. I just think it speaks to how we show up at our best. And the more conscious we are, the more self-aware we are, the more we tend to align with it naturally.
Although Scott does have like I'm not sure if it's a right or left angle, but his word is his incarnation cross is consciousness. I do know that
my
about his
gosh.
chart.
Yes, it is. I actually didn't write that part down because I was like, oh, we won't go that far. But yeah, I do see that. That's funny.
I was always fascinated by the incarnation crosses and those words. I think they've
Well,
helped me with our family.
Well, for each of us, for all of our kids too, they feel so appropriate. Like they feel just so perfect for each of them, And we're getting to, of course, our youngest is only 3, so she's still kind of.
No, she's exactly who she
But
is.
she's pretty much, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's really neat. It's a really neat way to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think we come in, and because it's the energy we come in with, we start out totally aligned, and then it's the world that makes us abandon that sense of self and conform to other ways. So the fact that you guys are already aware and are raising them in a way that allows them to be themselves, I imagine that they will show up more aligned with these types of things without any influence, because essentially you're just removing the factors that would normally pull someone off track.
Mm-hmm.
Doing our best for sure. We do homeschool our kiddos, so
Yeah.
there's challenges that come with that too. But we love it, and we just love being able to spend so much time with them and try to support them. And it's that the idea is just you just try to foster the things they're interested in, right? And so they can find their way. But we're doing our best to try to.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I think so much comes from the traditional school system that's not necessarily in the best alignment for most kids, whether that is how they learn, because just even in the most ideal setting, that many people in a room, you can't really cater to everybody's individual styles. And then there's curriculum and all the other things. But you have so much more of an opportunity with homeschool to support their own interests, let them learn how they learn, and like let them be themselves, and also not spend nearly as much time doing like structured classroom stuff.
Yeah, that was an interesting one for me to delve into a little bit, was the profile numbers,
Yes.
because Scott and I are quite different in that way. We have the one in common, which makes a lot of
Right.
sense,
Mm-hmm.
that we like to have the wisdom and perfect things, we have that in common. But the 5 and the 3 are quite different. I don't know if you want to speak to it first, then I can give you my examples.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So they do say with profiles, anyone who shares a line has a sense of resonance with other people who share their line. So with that one line, you definitely have that sense of shared resonance. And then the one line does speak to like they're the investigator, the person who needs to get to the bottom of things, who loves rabbit holes and learning and goes,
That's the thing we share.
deep dive.
Oh, good.
Yes. That is
Well,
what you
thank
share.
goodness. Thank goodness, because man, when 2020 came around, I was just so grateful that we were on the same page, and that we were both willing to
Stay
unlearn
open.
and
Yeah.
stay open. But yeah, so that was really, I feel very blessed to.
But do continue.
Okay. And then the line Leora, you have a 5, and Scott, you have a 3. And so the 5 line is the innovative problem solver. They have like a consultative energy, a savior or a hero energy, where people kind of expect them and project onto them to come in and like swoop in and save the day, like help me fix this problem. 5 lines do tend to experience a lot of projection and expectations. And in traditional human design lingo, it's the heretic. And that is because if you don't have boundaries around actually telling people no, like you can't solve this thing, essentially, if you tell them you can and then you let them down, you become like the heretic, and figuratively, they're like, want to burn you at the stake. So it's really important for a 5 line to find ways to not be so much in the projection field, and to be really clear about expectations and boundaries and what you can and can't help with or solve. And to just understand that you're not meant to be on all the time and saving all the time, and that not all the problems are your job to solve, even though people will feel that, problem solver energy in you and come to you for it. And then Scott with the 3 line, that speaks a lot to, so I'd say the 1 line speaks a lot to learning through like book smart learning or like research type learning, where the 3 line is like the kinesthetic learner, the tactile learner, the trial and error learner, where like someone's going to say, hey, don't touch that stove, it's hot, but you're going to touch it because you needed to know that it was hot yourself. It's like it's the needing to learn through trial and error for yourself.
For sure. I mean, I can relate to both of those things. I've probably done more reading in the last 5 years than I have.
Yeah, you're more of a figure it out as you go.
But I definitely have figured out as I go. Like I learned through mistakes, through like trial and error, basically, right? So, and I've certainly made some mistakes along the way, but yeah, you just try to learn from them and not make the same mistake again.
And it was really interesting for me to learn that, because I have this sort of intuitive knowing about things, and maybe that makes me on the outside seem less adventurous or less willing to get my hands dirty, although I like to get my hands dirty in the garden. But it was really, really helpful, even in terms of like songwriting and stuff, to be like, oh, we think of things a different way. We process things a different way. I kind of immediately have like a yes or no, and he likes to try it like over different ways and things like that. And even with our kids. So this is another cool thing about our 3 kids, is they are all 4/6s, all of them.
Wow.
All 3. And so, yeah, so that's another big thing of like, okay, so they're getting us out into these communities, and they're the ones who want, who are pulling us out of our shells, but they're also learning like Scott's learning. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, but it was really helpful for me to go, okay, all 3 of them are going to have to do like Daddy does, and like, don't touch the pan. They all have to touch the pan, and just to hold space for that, which is not, just so not what my body would do, right? Learning about that has been quite fascinating.
For sure. So I'm also a 5/1 Leora, so so I fully feel you. The 4/6 is the 4 line is the community networker. Their inner circle is really important to them. Their relationships are really important to them. And then the 6 line is they live like a 3 line until they're 30. So all of your kids are in their 3 line phase of the 6 line. And so they have that trial and error piece. I think back about this video, I think it went viral, oh my gosh, probably a decade or more ago. And where it was a story, it was about someone who was saying that her dad used to ask her when she came home from school, like, what did you fail at today? But in like a celebratory way, like, what did you give your all at, but you failed? Because I want to reward you for putting yourself out there and for trying hard and not for playing it safe all the time. And so I think that that is a really supportive angle to think of for the 3 lines or for the 6 lines when they're kids, like to almost reward yourself. Like, oh, I failed at this, which means I tried at something new. I learned something new, rather than like, oh my God, I failed again. And oh my gosh, I have to avoid failure, because failure is literally part of your process.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. It makes me think, actually, so our kiddos, our 2 oldest boys they're taking the Dr. Edith's blindfold vision course, and they just started it this week. Like it's just totally fresh. And so we've had a
lot of conversations about it's okay
it's
if you
okay to get it wrong
at first.
Yeah.
Or if it doesn't go as quickly as you might have imagined. And yeah, it's been actually really so beautiful.
It has been.
They can already both see colors through their blindfold. And the youngest one actually just,
our 3-year-old,
on his first day, was like, oh, actually, I think I can read. And he just picked up his sister's book and started reading it. And even the 3-year-old, yeah, she was like, I want to play around with it. She put it on and she could see.
We were like handing her the colors and she's like, oh, it's red, it's yellow, it's orange. We're like, we have what? Like,
it's been really beautiful, but it has been a really good conversation. Lots of good conversations about, and Edith talks about this a lot too. Like, you celebrate when you get it right, and then you celebrate when you get it wrong, because now you know the feeling of, oh, I was guessing, instead of I had I could see it clearly, or I had a knowing about it. It's been really beautiful.
It's been really cool to witness. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That everything Dr. Edith talks about is amazing. And I think it's great that she knows how to teach it and that kids are picking it up that fast.
It was neat for our boys to witness it in person at Confluence back in May, because they did a whole demonstration there, and they were like, they were just in awe. Like, they just thought it was so cool.
And also it was just like, oh yeah, we could do that.
And then also, yeah,
just something that's available to all humans, it's so cool.
Yeah. They're even teaching adults how to activate that as well now, which is really neat. So yeah, it's there.
Potential.
Yeah. I met someone at an event recently who was going to be part of the first adult cohort. So I was very excited that we aren't all, we didn't miss the boat, basically. I know it's easier for kids, again, without the programming and all the stuff, but they can just stay tapped into it.
Yeah, and even the difference between the 3-year-old and the 8-year-old and the 10-year-old, how it's, it's harder for the 10-year-old, even though he's the smartest and he's always good at everything and he reads 1,000 pages a day. It's been a really good learning of like, okay, so here's the, the unwinding of things. And yeah, it's been really beautiful and a lot to hold space for.
I'm sure. Yeah. I know you both have emotional, or what my teacher calls wait for clarity, authority. Do you know what your kids are?
I know. I'd have to look up their charts. I'm not sure.
We'd have to check again.
That's the middle one, right?
Oh my gosh. That's the what?
That's the middle one. The solar plexus. Is that what you're talking about?
The solar plexus, yes, is the emotional center. And that being like the authority, the decision-making style, because you both have the same decision-making style. I was just curious if you all are different in the decision-making arena or not.
Yeah, well, we'll have to look that up.
Now I want to know.
I know, I'm so curious.
Well, for both of you, it's the most common one. I think but it's still only about 50 or 55% of the population, because there's 7 different kinds of authorities. But yours is emotional or wait for clarity, which means as generators, you want to be lit up. So it's like, is something a hell yes or a hell no? You get that like gut response. But then for you, does that still feel like a yes the next day? Mm-hmm. Because you have emotional authority, you can experience what they call emotional waves. Like you might have a high or a low, or be in a high or a low kind of without any stimulus. You just might be in that kind of space, and it's not making a decision from one of the extremes. It's allowing yourself to wait for clarity to land. The best example I've heard about this is kind of like someone invites you to something and you're in the moment like, oh my gosh, yes, totally. I want to go to that. We'll be there. And you wake up the next morning and you're like, why? Why did I say yes to that? I don't want to do that. I was so excited in the moment, but I really don't want to. And now I have to either tell them I'm not coming or I have to go to this thing I don't want to go to. And the waiting for clarity just gives you that time and space to see, like, does it still feel like a hell yes in 12 hours or in 24 hours when I'm at a more neutral place?
And we kind of went through that, when we decided to sell our house in Regina in the big city in 2021, and we're like, we didn't want to stick around for the sort of, up here in
The winter of death.
the winter of death that was supposed to come, all the lockdowns and mandates and vax
Yeah, we
passes,
just wanted
all
a
that
different
stuff.
experience of life for our kids.
Exactly. We didn't want to, at first it was kind of like, I don't know, I mean, it was definitely like a yes, let's do it. And then it was like by the time we got to the point where like the house kind of sold, I was super emotional. I was like, I can't believe we're actually doing this. Like, here we go, but like there we were packing out all of our stuff into 8 suitcases, and with one of them filled with all the recording gear, and I had a guitar and a trumpet, and we had our instruments and ukuleles and stuff, and we were heading down to Mexico with our 2 boys and on this big adventure. And it's been wild now, looking back on it sort of now, just
We made a few decisions not from that perspective that have sort of not had the best results. We lots of learnings, because when you're on those big adventures, you're basically on highs and lows almost all the time, because you're, looking for places to live and meeting, and just everything's new, right? Meeting new experiences and
But
new people.
so much of those experiences though really informed our music. Just the stories and the lyrics, and I mean, so the album we released before Mantras for Magical Life is called Love in a Hurricane, and that whole album was essentially inspired by
Making that decision.
that whole
Yeah.
trip, going down to Mexico and then eventually coming back to Canada where our daughter was born. And
In a little cabin in the woods.
yeah, and we lived in a 30-foot camper for 16 months after, with our 3 kids. All 5 of us were in like this little camper, and we traveled Western Canada from Saskatchewan out to the West Coast. It's been a big adventure, but it's been
But we made that
beautiful.
first decision with this really feeling of just like knowing that it was the right thing for us to do, and trusting, and we were held. Like, we definitely experienced some intense highs and lows, but it has led us to what we believe is our, higher purpose, and it's been worth it. Although some days I'm pretty tired.
I can only imagine. Um, okay. Trying to think of what else. You guys are both split definition or collaborative definition, which speaks to how you process information and also work with others. So collaboration is like in both of your charts. That works perfectly. So you're both kind of aligned on that. Sometimes people with split definition feel more whole with others rather than completely self-sufficient. And it's not that they can't ever have alone time. It's just a matter of sometimes even the well of creativity feels, maybe if you're like stuck, it feels like it flows better when there's other energy around. For me, I have this too, and I like to go work at like a coffee shop just to be, I'll put headphones in. I don't actually want to talk to anybody. I want to like work, but I want the energy of the people to kind of flow, and it kind of unsticks my creativity. So I'm wondering for you guys, I know you work together, you create together, and you've been together a while, but do you ever find that, are you ever on your own enough to experience that?
We don't easily get much alone time
Well,
these days.
yeah, I mean, obviously with the kids, it's just the days are full. And we really have to like intentionally make time, to be creative, like whether we're trying to write music or record in the studio or,
Yeah, my alone time right now is studying. So that's like a completely different brain-sided situation.
For sure.
I'm in homeopathy school as well, which has been very exciting, but that's a side note. Yeah, no, I think that does I could speak a little bit to that in terms of like how our songwriting process has evolved, because I do find that it doesn't always matter if sometimes it comes in a little more clear when I have 10 minutes to myself in the bathtub or whatever, and then things come through. But what I really enjoy doing in the process is like, let's say words will come through and a melody, like especially for these keep songs, I'm thinking specifically that we've been writing. It's really great for me to take it to Scott then and be like, okay, let's work. Can you work with this? Can you make it into something magical so that it's not just me going, okay, this is the song that has to come out. It's me going, oh, here I've got these great ideas and I know what it has to sound like, but I need him to translate it into the world that we're in.
Yeah. And through, a lot of trial and error in the last 20 years, I've learned how to produce and record. And like we have, this is our little home recording studio behind us here. So we've got the ability to basically record our music at home here, which is just amazing. So I get to, put on my producer hat and figure out all the right instruments and the arrangements, and we can bounce ideas off each other. And yeah, I think it works. We've got a pretty good system down. I think we've got it's fun. We don't always agree on, certain things, or like, you think it should be this way, and I'm like, no, it's got to be this way, and then we got to figure out, how to get to the finished song. But yeah, it's always fun. It's always a pretty fun process.
Usually.
It sounds very collaborative and like
Yeah.
collaborative effort, different gifts, and kind of like a volleying situation. You're like, hey, I had this part. Hey, can you riff off this part? Hey, can you build off this? And what kind of this, again, like collaborative effort. What's interesting about what you just said is, Leora, your conscious son is in gate 11, which is the gate of ideas. And I don't know if you feel this, especially at least when you give yourself the space to, if you have a well of ideas that
they never end.
Yes,
a
never-ending amount of
always
ideas.
Flowing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you both have that gate, and actually, Scott, you have that full channel, which would mean that Leora can actually tap into that a little bit. But that being your sun sign gate, that is like a huge piece of the energy of your chart, is this well of ideas. And something to remember is that the ideas are not always necessarily for you to live out or you to act on, but they can just be ideas that come through you for the world or for someone else. I feel like for me, that relieves a little bit of the pressure, because sometimes it's like, my gosh, when would I ever have time for all of these amazing ideas? But they just keep coming.
Yeah, I resonate with that for sure. That's like, I guess, would be my first gene key, number 11 as well. So that's nice to hear it in that perspective. Yeah.
Your sun sign, Scott, is 64, which is one about making sense of the past and making sense of chaos, and like kind of taking past stuff and taking chaos and kind of creating clarity out of it. Which sort of sounded like what you guys described to me. Not that what your ideas are chaos, but it kind of sounded like Leora was like, I have this idea and I kind of fleshed it out a little bit. Can you make sense of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually clear to me. And it's usually like, here's lyrics and here's a melody. And that part's pretty specific. But yeah, there's a whole other world under there that needs to be fleshed out for sure. That he just somehow does. Like, he just has this.
Well, it helps when you play a bunch of different instruments. And I've been so musical my whole life. I started singing when I was 9, and I just been around music my whole life. So I can just kind of let my and then my ideas can start to riff off of her ideas, it's like, and then I can start to explore in different ways.
We used to explain it too, like different backgrounds, because my family's very musical. And so I have, my dad's a choral conductor. And so I can read anything on the paper, any kind of complicated music on paper, but I can't always translate that into my fingers. Whereas he learned like through his body,
Yeah,
right?
I read
And
music
through
as well, but I learned it's more intuitive for me. Like I learned guitar. I mean, mostly self-taught, and
yeah.
I've been writing songs since I was a teenager, and they always just kind of came. It just kind of came very naturally. So it's
And I did all the like theory, the written stuff, and
yeah,
you know, came from very different backgrounds in that way. And his parents were like, "Oh, music? I don't know."
yeah.
Like, you know, and it just somehow still beamed through to him.
It is a cool combo though, the two of us, because like you've got that more classical training, and I'm a little more free in a way, and so we just kind of smash it
I'm
all
free.
together. Well, I just mean like, yeah, yeah.
I love that you brought those together. What
Mhm.
else did I want to point out? So, as Scott, you have an open spleen center where Leora, yours is defined. And so I would say potentially Scott may struggle to like tend to people with an open spleen are more hold on to things longer than they should. Like they don't let go as quickly. I don't know if this is something you have experience with, like something season is over, but kind of like lingering with it, like a fear of letting go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. In some ways, I think I feel like as I've maybe gotten older, I've gotten a little bit better at because maybe I just have a little more awareness of that. But yeah, there's certainly moments. I know like Leora always sort of like, always tells me that I like to, sometimes I'll just like, I got to talk things out. I got to hash things out and like say it. Like, I've got to, yeah, it's like, I got to talk it out a whole bunch, like a lot before I can finally kind of let it go. So that does make sense for sure.
And then on the other end, Leora, you have an open mind, and Scott, you have it defined. And so with the open mind, sometimes there's a tendency, like culturally, to feel pressure to be certain about things that maybe you're still like, I don't know yet. And it's just like being okay with being in the I don't know.
And mine's closed?
Yours is defined, which
Defined,
just
sorry.
means more consistent access to the certainty.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And then what's one other difference I saw? Scott, you have quad left arrows. And so the arrows speak to different areas of life, but left is more of the like masculine and like structure energy, where right is more of the feminine and flowy energy. And so there's 4 arrows. Leora, you have 2 and 2, but Scott, you have all 4 facing left. So I would just say that in some areas of life, Leora, you might be a little more on the, I mean, just speaking human design wise, more of the feminine and flowy and go with the flow with certain things like routines. And Scott, you might be a little more supported by structure and a little more rigid of a
That
sort.
resonates.
Oh yeah, like so many times I'm like, God, sometimes I just wish we had a little more of a schedule. And we homeschool too, right? So it is often a little
And
more.
I love it. I'm just like, what are you talking about? This is perfect.
Yeah, it is. Our days are often a little more flowy, and sometimes I kind of crave a little more like, can't we just like have a bit more of a schedule or like
Maybe that's why you love hockey so much. You know exactly when it's going to happen. And
yeah,
our boys are in hockey this winter against my putting my foot down.
They manifested it.
They did. They got recruited by the town.
But yeah, that makes sense though. As far as there's so many times I voiced like, man, can we just like have a bit of a weekly, calendar or schedule or like have.
And I'm like, don't fence me in, man. We'll work on that. We're working on that balance, I think.
For sure.
That totally tracks. And it actually might make sense to be one of the things you look at with the kids. And speaking of arrows, they, like I said, they all speak to different things, but there is a way to look at some people learn more by like observation and some people learn more by like the doing. And so that's in there too. Is there any parts of the chart that you had in mind that I didn't cover?
I think I remember too, like I have a
Trying to think.
Filled in heart as well, maybe.
Yes.
And Scott's was open.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, it's the 2 girls in our household right now that have filled in hearts, and the 3 boys have open hearts. And I feel like sometimes maybe you want to speak to what that might mean.
Yeah. Yeah. So that center has several different names. It's the heart center, but it's also the ego center and it's also the willpower center. And so it's
Interesting.
actually way less common to be defined. I want to say it's like 20% ish. but I don't remember if that's exact, but it's a lower percentage of people who have it defined. And typically that's the girls who have it defined, you're saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
typically that center is tied again to willpower and to like self-worth, to worthiness. And so sometimes people who have it undefined struggle a little bit with that self-worth and needing external validation, or trying to overprove themselves to other people to try to find validation from external sources. And so they overgive, they overdeliver, they underprice, they undervalue. Those are like the shadow of the open heart or open ego center. I don't know if
Yeah.
any of that tracks.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. I mean, especially as an artist, notoriously the arts are undervalued. And so, it does feel like,
Yeah, sometimes I have an easier time saying like no to a gig that maybe I don't feel quite is gonna be worthwhile either financially or.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think part of that, I think, is just like you say, like knowing your worth, and what, yeah, it's like, that's something I've had to work on and learn over the years for sure.
I hadn't heard
Yeah.
that aspect of it, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's also
I just assumed it
willpower
was
and
all about
heart.
feeling.
No, so there's the emotional center is more about feelings. It's right next to it. And that's the one where your guys' authority comes from. That one is the emotional center is more like when it's defined, you can experience those emotional waves sort of with not necessarily any stimulus. Everyone experiences emotions, like somebody dies or whatever. Like that's like a response to something. But with the emotional waves, it's more of just like, oh, I'm kind of in this mood today. And it just kind of happened.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then when people have it undefined, I don't know about your kids, you both have this defined. And when it's undefined, people are more of a traditional empath in the sense of like they feel other people's emotions and they heighten that experience. So like maybe you're down, but they're like really down and they're expressing it because they're picking up on the defined emotional center's experience, which leads them to be
Right.
more of like a people pleaser because they don't want the disruptive emotions because they feel it from everybody.
Yeah.
So with the ego center, that's more of like, with the defined one, it's just more consistent access to the ego, not in a bad way, just into that like confidence and self-worth and not feeling the need to prove yourself. Where the undefined, the shadow of it is feeling like you have to prove yourself or prove your worth. And then the lesson there is, like you were saying, to just learn that you don't have anything that you have to prove and you're innately worthy.
Mm. I'd be really curious to know if they're the same as, I'd be curious. We'll have to look that
I'll
up.
look it up. I don't
Yeah.
think I have it very handy at the moment.
We'll have to check.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah, and so with the centers, it's just each kind of an energetic area of life. Again, it's kind of based off the chakras. And when it's open or undefined, that's where you're like a receiver, where you're receiving the inputs from everyone around you, which is why it's an area of your life you can be more conditioned or more programmed in. But because of all those experiences you experience through that space, it's also the areas you're meant to learn the most lessons and become the most wise. Where when you have it defined, it is something that you have more consistent access to, which is a gift. It's just not one of the areas you're going to be more likely to be programmed in.
So the solar plexus is that one in the middle, like this one? The diamond? Or is it the...
It's too blurry for me to see.
Oh, okay.
So it goes head on the top, and then mind, and then throat, and then that diamond is the G center or the identity center, and then sacral, and then root from top to bottom. And then on the left is the spleen, and on the right, the little one is the heart, and the bigger one is the emotions.
Yeah, so Jasper's is filled in. That's our middle guy. That's our generator. Oh, and he's got 4 left arrows like Dad. Oh, we have lots to learn. This is awesome. I'm having so much fun.
Amazing.
It is
Were
a
you
lot
still
when there's
looking
5 of you, you know?
For sure, for sure. And there's so many things like there's partnership charts and there's family charts and there's all kinds of things. But I always think it's best to just know yourself and then each other's basics before you're trying to look at how they overlap. Just like, can you know you first? What would you like to share with the audience? What are you working on? Where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Well, you can find us like Winsome Kind. It's an old English word, winsome, Winsome. I'm sure you can see it there on the, but in all the places, on all the streaming platforms, you can buy all our music on Bandcamp. I mean, we're currently actually working on our first children's album of music is going to be our next project. We're releasing an album of, we call them keep songs. And they're each song is a one-of-a-kind commissioned song for a specific person.
It's been the absolute most fun to create.
And it's happened super organically in the last couple of years. And so we have about 15 or 16 plus more of them now. We're recording a couple at the moment as well. But yeah, so we're just putting the finishing touches on our first children's album, and we can't wait.
Basically, it's been the perfect way to use our, like you say, collaborative resources. I get to channel that person and then write a song that's basically just infusing love into them. And then we, work together to put it into something. And they've been just been absolutely magical to create. We had to make it'll just be volume 1 because we don't even have all of our kids' songs on there yet. But yeah, it's been really beautiful.
That's
Anything
so
else you wanna add?
precious.
No, I think people can find us. Yeah.
Amazing. So were people, saying, hey, like, do a song for my kid? Is it people how did this project come about?
Yeah, so it's been a bit of a mix of both. It sort of started out really organically. We just sort of wrote a song for a friend's baby, and it was so, so sweet that she wanted to get one for her, niece. And then our friends came over and were listening to it, and they're like, oh my gosh, well, I need one for my boy who's turning 5. And then I need one for my girl who's turning 8. And then they just kept flowing in and all different ones. Like a family contacted us and they got together and got a song for their great great grandma who was turning 99. And I got to write one for the great great grandma in like old Hollywood musical style, and
like Andrew's sisters. Yeah. So each song really really reflects that person. Like they're all so unique, but they're all like just so infused with love.
But what's also beautiful is that like sometimes people contact us and go, oh, actually my daughter's name is this too. And we started listening to this song and it really resonates with us as well. And so it can become universal through being personal, which I think is, it's like watching your very favorite TV show and you get connected to the characters. It's kind of similarly to that, but it's just like so heart-centered and just pure. So, yeah. It's been really fun. We listen to them in the car. Our kids love them. Like they love, it just calms everybody down. And I love them. They're very special.
I can't wait for the world to hear them.
Well, what a beautiful gift to give to the world, your guys' music and this new album, but all of it and the positive contribution. People can have some positive, uplifting, kind music being brought to their ears and in their family and in their home when that's not most of the options that exist out there. So I think that's a beautiful gift that you're bringing.
Thank you.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish I had or that you'd like to share?
I mean, honestly, we could talk for hours and hours about everything about life and adventures, but I think that was great. It's really nice to sort of just
here's some
rekindle our human design interest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so, thank you so much for, sharing, with us all that information and just the various aspects of our charts and how they fit together. And yeah, it feels really, I guess, sort of validating for the path that we're on and the purpose and what we're doing. And it's just so beautiful. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning into Monroe Musings. I hope this conversation gave you permission to trust yourself a little more. to choose your nature rather than culture. If you haven't already, I would so appreciate you to subscribe to the show. And if you would like to explore your own human design chart or learn more about working together, please go to my website. And remember, going against the grain isn't just rebellion. It's coming home.